Stay with that story. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has expressed concern over the prevalence of illegal firearms in the country. The country has seen a sharp rise in deadly crimes, including mass shootings. Now, the Institute for Security Studies crime expert, Willem Els, joins us for more on that conversation. Willem, good to have you. Thank you very much for coming on. What works when you are dealing with policing a situation where you are seeing a rise in serious and violent crimes?
Good evening to you. Yeah, it is a serious situation because this shooting incident of mass killing is nothing new to the Eastern Cape. We also saw a recent rise in the spate of crime in Eastern Cape, where to such an extent with the extortions that a national task team had to be sent down to go and assist him there. And that is just an indication to us that the provincial commissioner and his team are really treading water, and that we need to strengthen them. We need to look at the leadership. We need to look at their strategies. We also need to see how the national component can strengthen them, and maybe it is time to bring people to accountability. We see that the Eastern Cape is one of the provinces that did not do very well when it comes to the last crime statistics. Things are really out of proportion when it comes to crime there. So clearly we need a new strategy. Leadership need to come to the table, and also we need more competence in terms of the investigations. We just heard the comment there that there is trust in those people. Now, when you have trust in the people, you always have to make sure that those people have the resources and the manpower to do what they need to do. Because at the end of the day, if we allow this type of crimes to go through the roof, it just sends the wrong message to the criminals.
So the fact that generally when these events happen, our response at a national level, strategic-wise, is we send task teams, we send special units, we send tactical teams to intervene in particular provinces, in particular instances. What does that indicate in terms of capacity, right? Resources-wise, in terms of capacity, manpower-wise, investigation-wise?
Yeah, I mean, it is an open secret that the South African police is under-resourced. It's an open secret that the detectives in South African Police Service is severely under-resourced. With some detectives carrying up to 300 dockets, plus with 5 to 6 detectives having to share a vehicle just to do the investigations. So now you can't expect these people to then effectively solve these crimes. So we will have to look from a national level and a provincial level to look at the manpower, but also at the resources. But as you mentioned, the sending down of a national task team, I see they also sent a forensics team from Pretoria to go and assist on the scene, which is wonderful. Because it seems it demonstrates that there's an urgency in solving this matter. But why did we allow it to go to this extent, where we have to look now at short-term interventions in order to curb these crimes? We have to have these short-term interventions in order to stabilize things. But it is time now, and it's also the ideal opportunity for the National Police Commissioner to revisit what is going on in provinces like the Eastern Cape that are struggling, see how they can strengthen them, see how they can look at a medium and a long-term plan. We are very encouraged by the new minister with he indicated that he's going to release a new national policing policy shortly. That will be wonderful to see how they're going to address this, because South Africa is I think we reach saturation levels when it comes to the crime levels in South Africa, and we need change, and we need positive change.
Yeah, without being too critical of the police and their strategy, because they asked us really not to interfere with their business because we don't understand policing work. So we are just trying to understand that. There's some in civil society, there's some in communities. In fact, the shoot to kill slogan is not new in 2024. It's been there for a while. Previous police ministers have called for it. I mean, I can look back as far as 2010, 2011, where that statement would have been made. What is likely going to be the end effect of that? Is it going to contribute towards the crime reduction, or we might, for example, see a crime rise, or we might, for example, see now broader long-term effects of this, where the crime puts more police at risk, puts more families at risk, maybe puts the whole entire criminal justice system at risk?
Yeah, in the first place, you're not going to turn the ship around in a few months. It's going to take time. So what we believe that will be, if we look at the strategy that the minister outlined in his first speech in Parliament, and he indicated four main areas, and then also in his last speech he indicated his priorities. So in the first place, we've got a severe challenge with the trust between the police and the public. We see that less than 27% of the police indicated in a recent study that they trust the police. Now, the easiest way, or the best way to attack that is actually the number two priority that the minister listed, and that is to curb corruption. So we would like to see in his strategy that he's got a decisive plan on how he's going to curb corruption within the police, because these criminal syndicates, they target police officers, they target what we call state actors in order for them to be effective and in order for them to thrive. So if we can cut that off, it will start to turn the tide against the trust. It is going to up that from the public side. Secondly, we need competency from the police. If the police demonstrate that they are competent, like we saw the arrest in the kidnapping case in the Eastern Cape that was announced earlier today, that goes a long way to strengthen the trust of the public into the police. And we have to have more like those successes that the police can demonstrate. So having said that, we have to look at the long term. We have to look at the four major areas that the minister said. And one of them, as you mentioned also, is where the public sector, the other state departments, and the police have to take hands. And for that matter, also the public. Because once you have restored the trust of the public in the police are in the public, they are in the community, and they're from the community. So without the community support, the police can, in any case, not do their job. So that is where we have to start.
Yeah. Do we have reliable data, reliable evidence on which we can rely on that, for example, specific tactics or specific approaches are likely to be successful, particularly in the kind of problems that we are having, where you've got a hitman, you've got a lot of gun proliferation, and so on and so forth. So, for example, can we say for sure we know what the impact of police numbers on crime rates is going to be? Can we say we know what effective police visibility is going to be if you carry out patrols and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I think that, there are several studies, but also I think the best way to do is to look at other countries that experience similar challenges and how they dealt with it. There are various examples on how they dealt with that, and some of them were successful, some of them were less successful. You've got various policing models. For instance, there's a model that was used to turn around the tide in New York City, and they call it the broken window approach. And that broken window approach was where they started to stamp out minor crimes. For any little crime, they arrested people, they fined them, and they started to enforce the law for all the minor crimes. And that then led to the reduction in your bigger crimes, etc., etc. That is one of the things. But one thing that you also mentioned in your introduction, and the minister also indicated his concern about illegal firearms. First of all, the police is one of the major suppliers of illegal firearms. If you look at the amount of firearms that have been stolen from the police or lost, it is one thing when a firearm is being stolen, when a policeman doesn't have a choice, and a gun is put against his head. But also, the negligence of policemen, they have to be brought to book. We have to see how we can keep that firearms from the criminals. Another challenge that we also have is our borders. The firearms are moving back and forth across our borders at a big rate. A study indicated that about 4.7 million illegal firearms are in circulation in South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. Yeah. And those firearms move back and forth across these borders. Yeah. So we have to do something. We have to come with a strategy how we curb those firearms.
How are we currently responding to that? What resources are involved in that response to that kind of challenge?
Well, in the first place, it goes back to corruption. One of the main reasons for our borders being porous is the corruption of the state actors that are policing the borders. So there we will have to come up with a strategy. Secondly, we have to work on intelligence. Our intelligence is not what it's supposed to be. We have to look on that. We have to infiltrate these syndicates, and we have to bring them to book. Thirdly, you have to look at your cross-border operations where your cooperation between the police and the counterparts on the other side, where they build strong teams and where they work together. We in SADC, we've got so many protocols. We've got the firearm protocol. We just have to enforce those protocols. You know, we are very good in drafting all these protocols, but we are very, very, very bad when it comes to implementing of these protocols.
So, Willem, you are saying, for example, if we sustain our action in proper investigations, if we sustain our action in proper resourcing, if we sustain our action in putting more boots on the ground, but certainly if we sustain our actions in rooting out corruption within the police, that is going to almost begin to create a space where we begin to see sustainability in the number of reduction of criminal activity.
Of course, you know, currently in South Africa, there's almost a culture of impunity amongst your criminals. If we've got a detection rate that is from someone being arrested to the case being investigated, going through court, to this person being sentenced. It's only 12.5% of all crimes in South Africa committed that perpetrator end up in prison or with a guilty verdict. So the odds are against the police at the moment, and it's on the hands of the criminals. So there is no deterrence for these criminals in fear of being arrested or fear of going to prison, you know, when you look at your responses, especially with the violent response from your armed robbers and the other violent crimes, where we have so many shootouts with police, it's just an indication that these criminals lost their respect and their fear for the police, and the police is busy fighting back, and we saw that when they started with this hard stance on criminals in KwaZulu-Natal, the murder rate since they started with that strategy has gone down by 9%, where in the rest of the country it's just skyrocketed again. So it just demonstrates to you the moment you do effective policing, and by that we are not condoning death squads and people operating outside of law. It is the strict enforcement of the law, where the police don't compromise, but also where they enforce the law. We have to restore law and order in South Africa.
Willem, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on in your analysis tonight. That's Willem Els with the Institute for Security Studies. He's a crime expert. This, as the Minister of Police, of course, is saying he's encouraged with the level of response that has been meted out to ruthless criminals across the country. And he's saying we are at the stage where we are confident that our men and women in blue, working with key stakeholders in the fight against crime, are on the right track and getting a grip on a serious and violent crime. What are your thoughts? You can weigh in on the conversation. 072 110 5584. Drop us an X at Newzroom 405.